All right, so good afternoon to everyone. Welcome back to another class. So, in our last class, what we looked at is basically system software and what is a system software, what are the various types, and what the system software does hardware control, software control, memory management, all of these management, and so on. And then we okay, so we still have to look at data transfer. We started data processing. And remember I mentioned that data processing, why it is after system software. Anybody remember why I said it is a chapter after system software? No one? Well, I said it is after system software, the chapter right after it, because the different data processing methods basically refer to the different ways that system software, your operating system, operates, how they function. So basically, your operating system can run in a batch processing method. It can run in a online or real-time method, or it can run in a time sharing method. Either one of those ways, one of those functions, it can operate as. So that is why it is right after the system software chapter. So we're going to continue with data transfer and then we're going to move on to application software. Now remember once again, if you guys have any questions at any moment in time, feel free to stop me and ask your question. So we're going to start with data transfer. Now, most computer users will at some time or another need to transfer files between computers. School students may need to transfer their work from a computer at home to the school network via cloud-based storage. Now, this is a term we already looked at. Anybody remembers what is cloud-based storage?
It's stored on the internet.
Very good. It's something stored on the internet. Can anyone remember what are some services that we have that we can store on the internet that we can use?
Samsung Cloud.
Good, that's one. Anyone else? This should be familiar to you guys because I'm sure you use Google Drive. Google Drive is one. Anyone uses Dropbox? Anyone uses Google Photos?
Yes, sir.
Good. Good. Those are all cloud-based storage. So if we look at our charts, um, let's see, when we were looking at our cloud-based storage, we said some examples are Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, and so on. So those are examples there of your cloud-based storage. So they can transfer their work from a computer at home to the school network via cloud-based storage or by using secondary storage device such as a flash memory stick, which we normally call a flash drive, or by emailing the work to themselves to retrieve when they are at school. So you have different methods of transferring data. You can transfer to the cloud, you can put it on a flash drive, you can put it on a memory card, put it on your hard drive, or email it to yourself. Did you guys know that? You can email yourself?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Yeah. And it's a good way of saving important information. Like if you have an assignment or a homework or something important that you want to keep, email it to yourself. The same email that you have, you just send it to that very same email and it's going to be saved in your inbox, like if someone sent it to you. So, two terms that you guys need to remember: uploading. What is uploading? Uploading basically means that data, uploading involves data being transferred from your computer to another computer. So, from your computer to another computer on the network or the internet. So, the direction is you are here, it's going from you to something else. That is uploading. So, you guys should be familiar with this here, this term. Because when you are talking about WhatsApp and you say you're talking about your status, you're gonna say upload your status, or you're gonna say upload a post or something like that. You guys are already should already be familiar with that term there. And downloading is basically the opposite direction. Downloading involves receiving the data to your computer from another computer on the network or the internet. So it doesn't actually matter where it is coming from, where it is going. What matters is the direction of the data. When you are sending, when you are transferring, that is uploading. But if you are receiving, the data is coming to you, that is downloading. So sending is basically uploading, and receiving is basically downloading. You guys clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Great. So, updates to software packages such as Microsoft Office are downloaded from the internet using file transfer protocol. Now, does anyone know what the word protocol mean? You can check your dictionary, search it online. What does the word protocol mean?
Sir, it's the rules determining the format and transmission of data.
Good. So it's some sort of rule that you're gonna follow. So um, a lot of the things in IT, when you are carrying out a certain action, there are a certain rule. There's a certain rule that you're gonna follow. So for example, when you want to download data, when you want to download something, there is a protocol, there's a rule that you can follow. We call that the file transfer protocol. So this is used when you want to download files, or you can say when you want to transfer files. So if you want to send a file, if you want to receive a file, if you want to upload a file, download a file, you can use the file transfer protocol method. That was designed to help you to transfer your files. So for example, as the paragraph mentioned, when Microsoft wants to update their applications, they would use the file transfer protocol to send out those updates to your computer. You guys following?
Yes, sir.
Great. So we learned three things so far. We learned what is uploading, we learned what is downloading, and we learned what is file transfer protocol. So the next paragraph, which part should I repeat? The file transfer protocol? Alright, so what I was saying about the file transfer protocol, the word protocol, what does the word protocol mean? It basically means a rule that you're gonna follow, some sort of pattern. Like if when you go to school, there's certain rules you have to follow when you're going to school. Ribbon in your hair, black boots, you gotta dress neat. That's how you gotta come to school. So similarly, there's a rule called a protocol you're gonna follow when you want to transfer data. And one of that protocol is called the file transfer protocol. So if you want to send data, if you want to upload, if you want to download data, if you want to upload and download files, you can use the protocol called the file transfer protocol. So for example, Microsoft, they would use it to update their applications, because remember, when you're updating, you're downloading new files to install the new update. So to transfer that file, they would use the file transfer protocol. Did that help? Great. So the next paragraph, before transferring your data now, it is also sometimes necessary to reduce the file size. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with this here. If you have a very large file, say you record a video and you have a picture, which would send faster, your picture or your video?
The picture, sir.
And why?
Sir, the picture
Because-
usually holds less megabytes than the video because the video is longer.
Exactly. So the picture is much smaller, so it's going to send faster. And the video, which is larger, is going to take more time. So what persons do when they transfer in data now, they try to reduce that file size so that when they're transferring it, it is much faster to transfer. So the process of reducing the size of a file for storage or for sending via the internet is known as file compression. So that's the fourth thing we're learning about today. File compression. So file compression is when you are reducing the file size so that you can take up less storage, or you can send your data faster. Now, some popular applications that you can use to compress your files are WinZip and WinRAR. So WinZip and WinRAR are popular programs for compressing files. And there's also 7-Zip. That's another popular one also. So these are important application names for you guys to remember. WinZip, WinRAR, and 7-Zip. Those are examples of application file compression software. Any questions? You guys following?
No questions, sir. And yes, we're following.
Great. Alright, we're going to move on to the next chapter now, the next continuation of the paragraph. So, in addition to reducing the file size, they can also be used to group files together into a single file so that it is easier for transmission. So file compression is very important because some files can take up a large amount of disk storage. So what do we mean by grouping files together? Well, let me show you guys an example. So say I have all of these notes here. I have 11 chapter here. And say I have to send all of it to you guys. Now, instead of sending it individually as 11 different files, what I can do, I can compress all of them together into one single file. So how I can do that? Well, first I'm going to highlight all of them. So you need to highlight all of them, like if you're copying them. And when you right click on them, now you don't actually need an application in order to compress your files because this was already built into Windows. So if you actually go to CentOS, you're going to see there's a compressed zip folder. So if you click on that, I'm pretty sure some of you accidentally clicked on this already. If you click on that, you can have a name here. So we're going to name it IT Notes. Notice now we have itnotes.zip file. So this zip file now, that is why we call it a zip file, because it has a zip extension. It has a zip file type. So we call it a zip file. So inside of this single file now, it's like if we have a folder. But I'm sure you guys know that you can't send a folder. You guys know that, right? I'm sure you tried that already. You can't actually send a folder. So this is like equivalent to a folder, whereby it allows you to send this single file and all of these documents are inside of it. So how do we know these documents are inside? Well, this zip file now, what are we going to do? We are going to right click on it. And notice there's an option right here to extract all. So once again, I don't need any application to do all of this. This is all built into Windows. So when I click on extract all, this box is going to come up. It's basically asking me where I want to extract it. So I'm going to leave this here because it's going to extract it exactly where the file is located. So I just have to click on extract here. And I'm going to close this. So notice the folder appeared at the top here. See the folder at the top here? IT notes. So it extracted it into a folder. When I open this now, notice all of the files are inside of this folder here. So that is how you compress files together. And when you send that single file, that is how you can decompress that single file and get everything that is inside of it. Did any of you know that before, or did you just learn something?
Just learned something, sir.
Very good. So if you guys got to send a lot of pictures, or if you got to send a lot of music to maybe one of your friends and it's on your computer, maybe you can try this method here. Now, the reason why you might need applications, like for example, how it's mentioned, you can use WinZip, WinRAR, 7-Zip, because there's different ways of compressing. So if you notice, this one has a .zip. So if I highlight all once again, and instead of going to CentOS, I'm going to use the application now. So I'm going to use 7-Zip. So this is the one I have installed. And when I go to, let's see, I'm going to add to archive. So this came up here. And just look at this part here. Notice you have zip here. So notice the drop down box. Only look, focus on this part here. So notice the drop down box here. Notice zip is one of the options, but if you notice, there's other methods of compressing. We have WIM, we have tar, we have 7Z, and there's many more. There's RAR, which is for the WinRAR. So there's different methods of compressing, and that is why you might need an application. Because any of you ever saw a file, instead of a zip at the end, you saw a .rar. Any of you ever saw a file like that? That one? Alright, well that is also another way of compressing your file. And if you notice, Windows doesn't recognize it. So I have a .rar, but Windows doesn't recognize it automatically. So that's where you might need an application in order to extract it. So that is how you compress files, and that is how you extract the files. Everyone clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, great. So let's continue. All right. So remember, there's two reasons as to why you're going to use file compression. One is to reduce the file size, And two, it is to group the files together. Those are the two reasons why you use file compression. Now, the larger the file, the longer it takes to send via the internet. So we already talked about that. So users of the internet will also know that web pages containing pictures can take a long time to load. You guys ever notice that? When you're on the internet, if the website has a lot of pictures, a lot of videos on it, the website takes longer to load?
Yes, sir.
Right. And that's actually because when you're browsing the internet, you're actually downloading the website. Did you guys know that? When you go to a website, you're actually downloading that website. So if you go to
So how are you downloading the website?
the browser, is actually doing that. So not you exactly, but the browser is doing that. So everything that you see in here, the browser is actually downloading. So you ever notice that if you open a website for the first time, a certain website, the image is going to take a while to download. But if you ever close that site and you reopen it, it opens much faster.
Yes, sir.
Right. So that there is an indication that it downloaded the files. So all of these images that you're seeing right now, these were all downloaded by the browser to my computer. So anytime you see that a page is taking long to load, it simply means that maybe your internet is slow or the website is slow. So it's taken a while to download those content. But when it gets stored on your computer, when it gets stored in the browser, it's much faster for you to access back those information. So continuing the paragraph, some popular file formats give smaller file sizes than others because they are compressed file types. So basically, when you're compressing a file, you're given a file a type. Each file has a certain type. If you ever looked at a file, like for instance, you guys would call this a PDF file. And if you look at the very end, it has a .pdf at the end. That's the reason why we call it a PDF file, because the file type is .pdf. Now, for music, what do you guys know as the file type as?
.mp3, sir.
Very good. What about pictures?
JPEG.
Right, JPEG, good. Videos,
MP4.
MP4, very good. So those are all file compression types, and they're also called file types. So each file that you have in your computer, each and every file has a certain file type, because technically each file is compressed in its own way, and when it is compressed, it has its own file type. So for example, you can see this one here has a PNG at the end. The Xmind file has a .xmind at the end. Well, you saw that the zip file had a .zip at the end. Even Word documents has a .docx at the end. So those are all the file types, the file compression types. Each file has a type. So these are some of the common examples that you have here. So for graphic, you have JPEG, and it's important for you guys to remember what are these common file types. So for graphic or images, you have JPEG. JPEG means Joint Photographic Experts Group. It's used for images. We have PNG, which stands for Portable Network Graphic, which is once again for image. For music, we have MP3. And for video, we have MPEG. I think this is one of your questions in your paper, one of your quiz. MPEG is used for video, and there's different versions of MPEG. So for example, MP4 is actually MPEG version 4. So let me see if you can find an image. Most common file types for images, audio, and video. Okay, this is a good one. Okay, this is a good one here also. So we have a list of file types here. So text file at the very top, that's a .txt. Microsoft Word is a .docx. Notice some other images, file type, you added .tif, TIF. For audio, we have .wave, .wav. For video, we also have AVI. We also have WMV. So there is not only one file type, there's multiple file types. And why we have multiple file types is because there's different ways that we can carry out file compression. Remember, it all leads back to file compression. So it's different methods of compressing the file. And remember, file compression is basically reducing the file size. So different methods of file compression, different methods of reducing the file size. So that's going to give us different file types. Are you guys clear on all that?
Yes, sir.
Alright, I'm going to send the image later after class. Alright, so that brings us to the end to this chapter here. Any questions before we move on to the next chapter?
I don't have any questions.
Alright. Alright, so we're going to move on to application software now. So that is the second type of software that we're going to add to our charts. So we completed system software and all of its types and so on. So we're going to start with application software, the other type of software. So the paragraph says, you have seen that an operating system such as Windows is essential for a computer to work. So each and every computer, each and every electronic device must have an operating system in order for it to work. We already understand that. So most of the software we use regularly has been created to do a specific task. For example, word processing and desktop publishing. So when you're on your computer, you're not using your operating system. You're using applications that do a specific task. Like for example, play a game, open a PDF, browse the internet. Those are applications that are doing a specific task. And that is what you're mainly using on your computer. So the term for software, such as this, is application software or application program. So the definition for application software, it is defined as any program that enables the computer to carry out one or more specific tasks. So remember, the operating system controls the entire computer. Now, the application software, that is what is going to allow you to carry out certain specific actions on your computer. When you want to play a game, that is an application software. When you want to browse the internet, that is an application software you're using. So anything basically that is not a part of the operating system that you would install on your computer, you can consider that a application software. Are you guys clear on that?
Yes, sir.
Great. So we have some types of application software. The types, this basically refer to how they are designed, what are they being used for. So your first type of software is your, where did it not go? Did it freeze? I'm not seeing the option to add information. Alright, I'll add that later on. So your first type of software is your general purpose software. Now, it's as the name indicates, it's general purpose. It's used in general by a majority of persons. So the most popular applications are those that are not specific to any organization or business. So it does not belong to any organization or business. Anyone can basically use this application. So a general purpose software is used by anyone. So the programs you use at school, at home, for example, word processing, database, spreadsheet, presentation, drawing, painting, game, browsing the internet, those are all examples of a general purpose application. So these programs are known as general purpose software because the user decides what to use the software for. So for example, I could use this Microsoft Edge. I'm using Microsoft Edge right now. Now I could use it to browse the internet, or I could use it to read this PDF and to make drawings on it. That's my choice. So it is general purpose. So for example, you might want to use a word processor, which you can use to write a letter. You can also use it to design a poster. You can use it to create a table. There's many uses for a word processor. So those are all examples of general purpose software. Are you guys clear on that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So general purpose software, it is much cheaper. So that's an advantage there. So you guys can take note of that as an advantage. It is cheaper because it's being used by millions of persons. So because millions of persons need access to this software, it basically has to be affordable. Because if millions of persons around the world don't get access to it, then it can cause their whatever activity they need to carry out, they won't be able to do it effectively. So it is generally error-free because millions of persons are using it. So persons are constantly reporting if any issue occurred with it. And some applications are even available online where information can be accessed anywhere or updated by multiple users at the same time. So some popular examples of application programs, can be found in table 1.5. So we have some examples here. Now, when it comes to application software, this is important for you guys to take note of. When it comes to application software, they can be grouped under categories. So think of the first column as a category or a type of the software. So we say that a application is a word processing software. It allows you to process words. So examples of software that are word processors, or that fall under this category of word processing is going to be Microsoft Word and Google Docs. And there's other examples of word processing software. So the first column is basically the category. So applications would usually fall under these categories here. Now, obviously these aren't all the categories. These are just some of the most common ones. So when we say a spreadsheet program, we don't only mean Microsoft Excel, because Google Sheets is also a spreadsheet program, a spreadsheet application. When we talk about a graphic application, we don't only talk about Photoshop, it's also referring to Paint. Paint also deals with graphics. Are you guys getting the idea?
Yes, sir.
Great. So each application has a category, and each category is going to have multiple examples falling under that category there, basically. So going back to our paragraph. Great. So we're finished with general purpose software. Remember, that refers to software that is used by basically anyone in the world. Now, we have customized and custom written software. So a customized software is general purpose software. So they take that general purpose software and they modify it for some specific tasks. So for example, they can take Microsoft Word and modify it to whatever they need it to do, basically. They can take Microsoft Paint, modify it, do what they want to do with it, so that it can work as they want it to do. So that is basically customized software. They take the general purpose software, modify it, so it does what they want it to do. So word processing, spreadsheet, and database programs are examples of general purpose software that can be customized by automating certain parts of the software. So this is one example of how they can modify it. They can automate certain parts. Anybody understand what that means? Automate certain parts?
Sir, you can explain it.
Okay. So basically, say for example, in Microsoft Word, um, say you're creating a letter, and we know that when we're creating a letter, you have to put in all the necessary information. You got to put in the address, you got to put in the body, the sender address, the recipient address, the salutation, all of those necessary information. Now, how they can automate that is that they can automatically maybe put in that necessary information, or they create a layout where you can just type in the information and you know where to put everything. So this is not it, but I'm just giving you an idea. Like for example, if I type in letter there, let's see this one. How long would it take? Good, something like this here. So maybe they take the application and they designed it so that all the necessary information, the layout, everything is gonna appear something like this here. This is just one simple example that maybe they can do. So they can automate certain parts of the software so that persons don't have to go and manually do those parts, or they can write and add programming modules to perform specific tasks. Basically, add more instructions to the program, to the software, so that it can do more things. So, like instead of just, like for example, Microsoft Word. We know Microsoft Word cannot play a video, but maybe they can add that into Microsoft Word so that they can play maybe a short video when they wanted to do it, when they send in a document or something like that. All of that is basically could fall under customized software. They're basically changing that general purpose software to perform a specific task that they wanted to perform. Are you guys following and all that?
Yes, sir.
Great. So the next paragraph. Now, in contrast, custom written. Remember, it's two types here. We have customized and we have custom written. So we understand customized means to take the general purpose and modify it. Now, custom written, which is also called bespoke or tailor-made software. So three names: custom written, bespoke, or tailor-made, is software written for use in a specific organization, such as the military, hospitals for equipment, in the bank, in financial institutions. So large organizations, and well, not only large, but an organization that needs a specific program to do something specific for their organization, they are going to create a custom written software. And what this basically means is that this software, they're going to hire a person called a programmer, a software developer, and that person is going to listen to the organization. The organization is going to say, I want a program that can design military weapons. Let's use that example. So, for example, the military, they could hire someone that could develop a software on a computer, maybe on a robot, that can be used to develop military weapons. That's an example there. So that's not a software that you guys would generally use. So obviously, that's not a general purpose software. So that is custom to the organization. So it's a custom written software. It's specialized to that company, that organization. So the paragraph continues. It also involves specific training. So you can think of this as a disadvantage. So custom written software, because it is not popular, it is not something that a person is going to know about, you got to train somebody to use it. So that could be a disadvantage there. So since users need to be able to use it efficiently, so you got to train them to use it. Now, other examples of tailor-made software include that used by air traffic controls. So the computer that the airport is going to use to manage all the planes and all of the airspace and so on, that is going to have a customized software, not a customized, a custom written software. It's going to manage all the flights. Another example is an accounting software, airline reservation software, computer aided design software. Those are all examples of custom written software. So these are not general purpose. Since the users of these kinds of software, for example, accountants and engineer, are trained in that particular field of expertise. So if you think about it, um, you have the application called Paint. That's not a software that you need training for, and you gotta specialize in a certain field to be able to use a software to use this specific software. But when it comes to AutoCAD, any of you ever heard that software before, AutoCAD?
Yes, sir.
So AutoCAD is a software that companies would use, not companies, persons would use to construct the plan for a home or a building and so on. So persons got to be trained in order to use that software. So that is why it can be considered a custom written, so that it can persons can well, not exactly that AutoCAD one, but other more specific ones can be considered as custom um, custom written, because persons got to be trained in order to use that specific software. So since the software is specific to an organization or business, it can be very costly. So that's another disadvantage here, because you gotta hire somebody and they're gonna create the software and it's gonna take time. So it might take a long time to write before it can use. So depending on how much you can pay the person, it might take a while before they can actually make the software. So it can be expensive, can be costly. So that there is customized and custom written software. Are you guys clear on that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the next type of software is called specialized software. So specialized software is the term referring to a software that is written solely for a specific use rather than a range of functions. Examples include software on your phone, for your camera. So for example, your camera is only going to be used so to take photos and so on. So it's going to only allow you to manipulate and share photos. Another example is a card game, which is going to allow you to play a particular game. So it's kind of similar to general purpose and customize, but if you think about it, general purpose, you can use them for multiple tasks. So like for example, Microsoft Edge. Yes, it's designed to go on the internet, but you can use it to play music, you can use it to watch videos, you can use it to read a PDF. So it's general purpose. There's multiple things you can use it for. But when it comes to a camera app, it's basically only one thing you're going to use it for, to take photos. When it comes to a game, the only thing you can use it for is to play that game. So it's specialized for that one specific task instead of a range of tasks. So that's just basically what is a specialized software there. Now, integrated software is, as the name indicates. Anyone know what the word integrated means? One. So integrated basically means to combine, so merge together. So it's basically software you are combining together, packaging together. So many computers are sold with integrated software already installed. So integrated software is a term for a program that includes all the major types of applications. So for example, like Microsoft Office, it has a word processor, it has a spreadsheet, it has a database, and it brings them together into a single software package. So Microsoft Office um, Adobe Creative Suite. Those are examples of integrated software. So whenever you install Microsoft Office, you get all of these applications here, and sometimes even more. You get Word, you get Excel, PowerPoint, Access, Publish, and so on. So it's one software with multiple software inside of it. And even for Adobe Creative Suite, you can get Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, Adobe InDesign, and all the other various Adobe Creative software. So the large software companies such as Microsoft sell their main applications program together in one package. So although packages such as these are sold as integrated software, it is actually not a true integrated software because you can actually the programs are separate because you can actually install Microsoft Word alone if you only need that, or install Excel alone. So it kind of is like a gray line area. What they're trying to say here, they're packaged together, yes, but in a sense they can be working on their own. So it's not like a true integrated software. So choosing software should be no different from choosing any tool for a job. Just as in construction, you decide whether to use a drill or a hammer to carry out a particular task. So with software, you need to decide what it is you actually need to produce and then choose the most appropriate program. So just like if you're going to cook and you need to decide if you're going to use a pot, if you're going to use a spoon, if you're going to use a kahari, if you're going to use a saucepan, if you're going to use a spatula. Similarly, when you're going to do something on your computer, you're going to decide what software you're going to use. So for example, if you want to draw, should I use Microsoft Paint or should I use Photoshop? Should I use GIMP? Should I use Inkscape? Or if you want to play a video, should I use the video player that comes with the computer? I think that is I don't even know what's a video player. I think it's something, but I'm pretty sure you guys know about VLC and Windows, yeah, movies and TV. Those are the video players that you can use. Great. So you basically have to decide what application you're going to use for a specific task. So you guys clear on what is specialized and integrated software?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. So once again, the table is here. So we have the various categories: presentation software, integrated software. We have the examples here. So this table is important for you guys to remember also. What is the category? What are the examples of software that fall under that category? And what are the software used for? So, um, so basically, as we're on this topic here, I can give you guys an idea as to what we'll be doing in fourth form and fifth form if you decide to do IT. So if you decide to do IT in fourth form and fifth form, what you're basically going to be doing is the first term in fourth form, you're going to learn about spreadsheet. The second term, you're going to learn about database. The third term, you're going to learn about word processing. And then basically in fifth form, or even at the end of fourth form, you're going to learn about web page design. So web page design. And then in the final term, you're going to learn about programming. So that's what you'll be learning about in fourth form, fifth form IT. All right, any questions on this chapter?
No, sir.
All right. All right, we can take a 5 minutes break, and then we're going to look at user interface and then end there. So user interface is going to be our last chapter. So you guys can take a 5 minutes break. We'll start back at 4:05. If you guys have any questions in the meantime, we can take them. Let's see. All right, so let's resume. So, are you guys there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great. So we're on our final chapter for the day. We're at user interfaces. So basically, what this chapter is about is how do you interact with your computer. So you have your computer, you have all of these various hardware, all of these various software that is operating and causing your computer to function. But how do you interact with the computer? How do you send data to the computer? How do you transfer data to the computer? How do you transfer data from the computer? All of that. That's what we'll be looking at today. How do you basically interact with your computer? So let me use that color. So user interfaces are found wherever digital technology exists. How you interact with and use this technology is controlled by the computer user interface, also known as the human computer interface. So however you interact with a device, whether it's your phone, whether it's your smartwatch, whether it's your fridge that has a computer on it, whether it's your microwave, they have an interface. That's how we interact with it. And we call that the user interface. So a user interface involves various ways of capturing or transferring the data between a user and the computer system. So why do we use this user interface? It is used to capture data or transfer data. The paragraph continues. The interface, therefore, it can be graphical, it can be just text, as you're seeing on the screen, just text, or it can be audio, video based. So you're only seeing audio and video. So depending on the application, meaning that it can be a hardware interface, software interface, or a combination of both. So these are some of the types of interface you have here. The interface could either be graphical, it could be text, it could be audio video, it could be a hardware interface, it could be a software interface, or it could be a combination of both hardware and software interface. So as we go through the examples, you'll get a better understanding what we mean by graphical, text, hardware, software, and all of that. So since a user interface helps the user to interact with the system, these are some of the qualities or the features it should have. It should be attractive, so it should be something pleasing to look at, something that you're comfortable to use, it's pleasant to use. It should be simple. It shouldn't be anything too complicated. Like for instance, if your phone is complicated to use, would you guys use it? Or if a game is complicated to play, would you continue playing that game?
Yes, sir. Give it to me.
But even if the interface is complicated to
Even
use,
yes,
No,
because
sir.
honestly, no.
yeah. So well, if it's like I'm talking about like if it's extremely complicated, it's hard to figure out what is where and so on. Then that would, well, in the first place, it might turn you off. It might not want you to it might make you to not want to use the device. So that is why persons will try to make the interface simple. It should have a quick response time. So like when you're using it, you should get a reply quickly. Like for instance, your phone. When you're interacting with your phone, when you touch something on your phone, you say for instance you touch an app, you expect to see the application opening like within the same second. And if it doesn't open in the same second, you start to wonder, did I touch it correctly? Or my phone just moving slow? So quick response time is important. You must have instructions that are easy to understand. So like if it's a new system, there should be like tutorials, easy instructions telling persons that click here, this is gonna happen, touch there, that is gonna happen, and so on. And the layout must, you must have a consistent layout. Like if you're gonna go to different screens, like for instance, this here, what you're seeing right now, is actually a user interface. So when I switch to different tabs, if you notice, these settings here are all in the same location. They're not shifting and moving and going all over the place every time I go to a different tab. So that is a consistent layout. That's one example there. So these are all characteristics a user interface must have to be effective, to be useful to a person. Attractive, simple, quick, easy to use with instructions, and it must be consistent. Are you guys following so far?
Yes, sir.
Great. So our first type of interface we're going to look at is the hardware interface. So we already know what hardware is, right? Anybody want to tell me what is hardware? What you remember is hardware?
The physical part of a computer, sir. The part that you can feel with your hand.
Very good. So the physical parts of the computer. So if you put the pieces together, interface is how you interact with a computer. So if it is a hardware interface, it basically means it's a physical method of interacting with your computer. So the paragraph says, a hardware interface such as touchscreen, sensors, digital cameras, special keyboards are input devices that were discussed earlier in this chapter. So you have 4 examples here of hardware interface. An example of a hardware device with a user interface is a game controller. So a game controller, we talked about this already, is also a special keyboard. So it's not like a regular keyboard that you have attached to your computer. We call it a special keyboard. So the layout of the buttons, the touchpad, the joystick, the hand grips together form the user interface that carries out the various functions. So the analog stick, the D-pad, the X, Y, A buttons, the triggers at the top, all of these work together as the interface for the game that you are playing. So that is how you interact with the game. You're using an interface, and this is a hardware interface that allows you to interact with that software, that game that you're playing. So whether it's the game is on your computer, whether it's on your Xbox or your PlayStation or your Switch, the controller that you're using is a hardware controller, hardware interface, and pressing the buttons on that controller allows you to interact with that game. Are you guys clear on all that?
Yes, sir.
Great. So basically anything that is physical, so the touch screen on your phone, what would you guys say? Hardware interface?
Yes, sir.
Right. Because you got to touch the screen that is on your phone. That's the only way you're going to interact with it. The keyboard on your computer, that is a hardware interface. What about your TV remote? Would you say that's a hardware interface also?
Yes, sir.
Right. Because that's something physical you have to touch. So those are the examples of hardware interface. So we're now going to go to software interface. So software interfaces are available after the computer has booted up and the operating system has been loaded, allowing the user to interact with the computer or device through an interface. So software interface include online forms, for data entry, dialogue interfaces for navigational systems and vehicles, Amazon Alexa for the Echo Dot. Those are examples of software. We already know what is software. Software is something digital on your computer, on your device. So whether it's your phone, we know what is the software, the applications running on your phone. So when you are interacting with those digital parts of your device, so for example, if you're talking to a navigational system, you're talking to the system and the software is recording your voice. So you say, give me the directions to KFC. And the software comes up and tells you that you got to turn left, you got to turn right. That there is an example of a software interface. You didn't touch anything physically, you didn't interact with it physically. You spoke, it took in your information, and it gave you back that information. Google Assistant, Amazon Alexa, even a form that is online, a digital form, that is also an example of a software interface. So we have, it's saying 4, but I'm only seeing 3. So these are the most common software interfaces. So the very first one is called the command line interface. So remember, these are software. Software is something that is digital. So the command line interface requires you to type in commands. So command line, typing in commands using a special language. So this special language makes command line interface difficult to use. So that's a disadvantage, especially for new computer users. So in recent versions of Windows, it's called Windows PowerShell. So Windows PowerShell is an example of a command line interface. Now, you guys can actually see this interface if you type in PowerShell on your computer. You can see the application called Windows PowerShell. Now, let me close this one here. And open command prompt. So in case I did that too fast, so if you go to start and you type in command, you can see there's command prompt. So if you click on that, this is going to come up here. Now, imagine if you start up your computer. Ignore what's at the bottom here. Ignore all of these menus at the bottom here. You start up your computer, and this is all you're seeing on your computer. Would you guys know what to do?
No.
No, you won't know what to do. So this here, what you're seeing right now, is an example of the command line interface. It's also called a text-based interface, because the only thing you're gonna see in this interface is text. That's the only thing you're gonna see. So anything that you want to do, you have to type in what they call a command. So for example, if I type in the command dir, I'm gonna see the list of folders. So notice you're seeing a list of folders here. So my 3D object folder, desktop folder, document folder. So if I want to open a folder, I need to type cd documents. So notice I now have this documents here. That's indicating I am in the documents folder. So if I type dir now, dir, is it dir? No, it's isn't it dir that was selected? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, now it's working. Wonder what happened. Yeah. So, oh, I typed C there. That way. So, notice I typed der inside of that. What's happening? Good. So I typed dir inside of the documents folder. I notice all of my files that are in my documents are appearing here. So as you can see, all the files there. So if you, back in the past, if you actually wanted to open one of these here, you have to type the name. So if I want to open, let me see, which one can I open? What can I open? Alright, yeah, I'm gonna open startup expenses. So you will have to type the name, click enter, and the application opened here. Well, back then I don't think they had applications because remember it's only text based. So everything they would have been doing inside of this command prompt here. So that there is your command line interface. You guys clear on that? All right. So the next software-based interface is your menu-driven interface. I want to sneeze. So a menu is basically a list of options from which you can choose what you want. So we all know what's a menu. It's a list of options. So applications program use menus as an alternative to type in commands. So this was the next step. So when they first developed computers, the computer started off with a command line interface. That's how you interacted with the computer. But the next step was to create a menu-driven interface, whereby you're going to see a list of options. So instead of typing in the command, because if you guys notice, I needed to remember what was each command in order to do something. So if I don't know what's the command, I cannot do anything. So to make it simpler now, what they did, they created the menu-driven interface where they gave you a list of options. Like for example, this option here, this image here. So these here are menu options. So the menu option of new, open, save, save as, these are all menu options. And all you got to do is basically click on it. So you click on new, and the new box is going to open. You click on open, that's going to open. You click on save, that's going to run. So that's basically the menu driven interface. You see a bunch of options, you see a bunch of menus, and you click on what you want to select, what you want to open. So the menu driven interface were developed to try to make the interface friendlier and easier to learn, because you don't need to remember any command. You just click on something and it carried out the action. So you can control the computer by choosing commands and available options from a menu using keys on the keyboard or a mouse. So you just basically select the option and that was it there. For example, depending on your choice, another set of options may appear on the screen and so on. So a very common example. You guys ever notice that when you go to KFC, Popeyes and so on, and you tell them your order, how do they enter your information into the computer? You guys ever looked at it? Any restaurant, any fast food restaurant, when you tell them your order, you ever notice how they enter your information? Do they have it here? No one? Nobody ever look? Or y'all don't buy food?
Sir, they put it in through a computer.
Yeah, I put it in the computer, but how do they interact with the computer? That's the question. Alright. So, have you guys ever saw something like this here?
Yes, sir.
Good. So that's what I'm talking about. So, this man even chicken. So,
So it's a bad.
so this here is an example of a menu-driven interface. So the interface basically has a bunch of options, a bunch of menus. So, and you basically click on the or touch the various options and it enters that specific item into the system. So like for instance, when you tell them you want chicken, they're actually gonna click on the option for chicken, or you tell them you want fries, they're gonna click on the option for fries, and then an option is gonna come up asking them how much was the amount. They're gonna press on the amount. So it's basically a bunch of options appearing on the screen, and the person just has to select the various options, and it gets entered into the system. So this here is a menu-driven interface. A bunch of menus pop up, options pop up, and you basically select what you want. You guys clear on that? Seems you guys falling asleep. So, continuing the paragraph, the menu-driven interfaces can also be verbal rather than visual, so you can talk to the system. An example is an automated answering service where you press 1 on the keypad for a department, 2 for another department, 0 for the operator. These interfaces can be easy to follow, but can become confusing as the number of menu options increase and you need to retrace your previous options. So basically, you saw the example. There's a bunch of menu options here, and sometimes it might confuse a person. They don't know what to select, what to click on, what they have to choose to do a certain task, because there's so many options being listed there. So that there is basically the disadvantage there. All right, what we're gonna do, we're gonna close off here. Next week, we're gonna continue from graphical user interface and then head into the next chapter. So basically what we looked at today, we looked at, remember, data processing refers to the different methods of how your operating system function. It can function as a batch, as real time, as online, as time sharing. And we looked at various terms. What is uploading? What is downloading? What is file transfer protocol? What is compression? So, and then we moved on to application software. Remember, there are 4 types. There is general purpose. So we looked at what is general purpose, what is customized, what is custom written, and what is specialized software. Oh, and then there's also integrated. So 5 different types of software we looked at today. And it's important for you guys to remember what are the common examples of software and the common examples of file types. And then we started with user interface. We looked at what is a hardware interface. Basically anything that is physical that you have to touch. And a software interface is what you're going to interact with digitally. So some sort of software. So we looked at the first one, command line interface, and then menu driven interface. Next week, we're going to start with graphical user interface. All right, any questions before we close off? No questions. So hope you guys, anybody learn anything today? Learn anything new?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. All right, if no questions on anything we learned today, you guys are clear on everything. We're going to end here for today. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend.